Wondering why the cost of cars drops so quickly? Why you lose all that money? Or why it might not be worth actually investing in expensive new cars other than the fact they keep breaking. So, I was doing some... oh, by the way, I've got to say this. I'm not a financial advisor, and etc. So this is just my own opinion, my own little bit of research and my own thought processes. So I just got to get that out of the way. So I will be doing videos with me in it, but at the moment I'm using a rubbish phone and I haven't got my camera yet. So, but that will all change. Anyway, and this is also for another channel of mine, so I'm probably going to put it on both. But anyway, there was something that I kind of started to think about. Now, I have a little bit of interest in world economics and stuff like that, but nothing formal. I'm not that great at that kind of thing. But I have watched tons of stuff on it through the pandemic. Just, I really wanted to learn about the world economics and stuff like that, and general economics. And not long ago, I started thinking about why do cars start losing value and stuff like this, and why, certain commodities go up and other things go down. And I was thinking, as I was looking at older cars, because I absolutely love older cars. I'm not really that interested in new cars. But no matter what I looked at, I started to see this little pattern. And I asked 3AI afterwards, not 3AI as a name, but 3 different AI programs, because I really wanted to know, was I right? So I'm going to break it down for you. It's going to be really basic. If anyone is a financial guru or, really, really good with this kind of thing, please let me know. If I'm right, wrong, on the right track, slightly askewed, but correct, slightly askewed and completely wrong, whatever. But this is the way I see it. So as far as I can tell now, sorry about the way that I'm doing this, hands and pieces of paper. I feel like I'm on Blue Peter, to be honest. So, and for quite a lot of you probably have no idea what that is because I'm old. But so if you buy a car, let's say a lot of second-hand cars, decent condition, haven't been revamped with like a fortune spent on it to make it look brand new or even better and all the rest of it. So I started to see a lot of cars from around, let's say, I don't know, maybe the really late 90s to the sort of mid 20s, maybe a little bit later than that, for somewhere around 1,500 to 2,500. This is UK, so I can work it out what it is in dollars, but I don't even know if it will apply in the same place, so I don't even think that's in the video. I'm such a dumbass. So, am I allowed to say dumbass on YouTube? I don't know. So, that's better. So, this is a sort of price range for a run-of-the-mill, pretty decent. Runs, might need the odd thing, MOTs, might not. I bought some cars and they've lasted 3 or 4 years with for a lot less than that. So, and you get a decent car, no AI, no all this sort of stuff. So then I started to look and I thought, I saw a few classic cars. Now, they're not in great condition. They're going to need a bit of work. But sometimes they need as much work as these ones. So this is like, these cars are somewhere like, let's say, 1996 to 2000 and let's say 2000 and let's go for 9. I'd probably now say about 2012. So that sort of area. And I know these sort of cars are getting a little bit more popular. Now, if you go for something like a 1974, I think that was the base range I used. There was a reason for it, because there was high inflation, which we currently have now, apparently, although they're trying to say that we don't. So I started to think, well, there were some cars like the MGB GT, you had the Triumph Spitfire, I think that was a bit more and such. And when I look back, their average price range new was about 2,000 to 2,500. I know there was higher amounts and stuff like that, again in pounds. So, and I started to think, well, why is that? Why is it? Is there any correlation between this price here and this price here? So, because I started to find that you can currently buy some of these cars now in, you know, like 1972, 1974. I've owned one myself. I would absolutely love one again. And I had a classic, and I paid a lot less than that. I paid about 800 quid, and it lasted me a year. And then I had to sell it because people kept picking it up and putting it on the path, and it wasn't in a very good place where I lived. So I didn't have a driveway or a garage. So it just felt it wasn't fair when everyone in the pub thought it was great to lift it up and carry it down the road. So, but anyway, and I found that sometimes you can pick them up for 1,500 to about £3,000, which is literally within the scope of that. Now, I know some of you are going to say, you know, oh yeah, it's going to be a monkey nut, you know, it's not worth buying. Maybe that's true. They're not going to be prime examples that are collector's items, and I will get to that. And they're not going to be the best. They're not going to have been updated, for instance, and have been re-upholstered. I'll also get to that and why that matters. So, and I started to think, well, these haven't really now lost their value, because what it was then, if it dropped down by depreciation over time, it should be about 25 quid, shouldn't it? Because if you bought one of these cars, these were like, I think, so if you went for an X-Type Jaguar, for instance, I think they were, what, 28k? And in that time, they've dropped to 2.5k. Sometimes, actually, I'm going to be fair and I'm going to put 1.5k. And then, you know, various other cars that started off at, say, the 16, 18k that are now 1,500. And I started to think, well, is there a reason for that? So, and then I started looking at other things. And I thought, does this happen with everything? Turns out, on average, it does. And I was really perplexed by this, because I thought, is this something that the elites, rich people, even the companies that do this know? Maybe the banks even know. You know, is this, are we self-conning ourselves, or is it just our own blatant ignorance? Because why are these, now please don't take these numbers as like 100% gospel. I know there's differences and stuff. I'm trying to be as average and fair to be an average as possible. And this is in this year of 2026. So this is kind of when I looked. So I started to think, well, is there something going on here? And I don't think it's like some major conspiracy. At least I don't think it is. Maybe it is. If anyone thinks it is, please let me know. So I found out that currency. So in I think it was 1972, we came off the gold standard. Now, this isn't a video about gold. This is something I just sort of knew. I believe it's 1972. We came off the gold standard, and we went into this fiat currency. So, which we now have, which is, I believe it's the petrodollar, they call it. So, and then in 1974, when it really kicked in, this new currency, there was massive high inflation. Now, what I started to find is, since, let's put somewhere around, let's put now, but 2026, can't even remember what year it is. So since then, I found that that currency has dropped down by 93%. Now, I believe that's your spending power how much you can actually buy with the same amount of money over that period of time. It's dropped down. So we're currently left with 7%. And I thought, holy, guacamole. And gold has been going in this direction, which is what we came off of here. So gold has been going up. That's supposed to be a G, not a 9. So I started to think, is there a correlation in a way between this and that? Because houses have done the same. Now there's a difference with houses though. Houses are overinflated because of certain companies, games, and also the fact that I think it's population versus the amount of houses that are made versus big companies like BlackRock buying them, and then availability and stuff like that. So there's a massive difference. But I found that a lot of other things do actually work like this. Everything suits, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, right, okay, so stick with me here. I am getting to the point. So if you buy a car, yeah, this is going to be a really rubbish car. Please don't buy this car, because actually it's not that bad. Got a little windscreen there. So, yeah, I'd drive that. I've driven worse, I've got to admit. It needs a boot. So, it looks more like a rat. So, I'm wondering about these new cars and why they're depreciating so much. So, because if you get a new car, they could be like 80, 100, 300k. Okay, average person probably not. But the rate that they're dropping down now is literally, days or months. Whereas before, it was in years. I mean, I've seen some of these cars losing vast amounts of money, not just on the first day, but really, really quickly. And a lot faster than they ever did. So I wondered, why is that? Because it's not within this timeline. And why are they dropping? And why is it often that they drop to this base level before all this technology of around 2,000 quid on average, maybe 3,000 if I was to be fair. And it turns out, with some research and finding out, it has to return, or will return, or does tend to return to its base material and energy level. In other words, the metal that was used to make it, the work that went into it, the energy that was spent in electricity, manpower, and everything else, it returns back to its original cost. So this must be why. So when these were built, this is around the time of the new fiat currency. So before it went into the new fiat currency, or at least the transition. So these cars would have kind of been based on their gold to currency rate. But after that, they went into their fiat currency rate, which depreciates. And it has to return back to this sort of 1974, 1972 level. And I wondered if this was happening. So if you had, say, a new electric vehicle, you had an old car and then an old classic, the time period between these, I don't know if I can do this on here, I know what it says in my head. So this was when this was created, and it would have taken one notch. This was when this was created, and it went down by this. sorry, this is the wrong way around. I don't know what I'm doing. This is coming, which is quite obvious. This went down in price or held its price to a point over a long period of time. The sort of, I don't know, 1990s cars to the 2008 cars, they went down in price at a much faster rate. And these new cars, not necessarily EV, let's put all and, seem to be dropping at this really quick rate. I know this is not to scale, and I think it's because the cost of the car, which is a technical term, is so high that it has to come down at a rate that's a lot faster due to some, I don't know, economical timeline that it has to return back to its base price. And to do that, it has to come down quicker than in previous routes. So, and I just found that fascinating. And I thought, I can't be right here. I mean, this must be wrong. You know, this is daft. So I checked with 3 AIs. And it turns out that this is something that a lot of elites and rich people already know. And there's a term for it. Now, I can't remember the term, but there is a secondary term called Austrian economics, which I've never heard of. And they don't teach economics in school, and they never used to, and I've never heard of it being done. So we don't tend to know any of this when we're going through our lives. And I've owned a lot of cars, and I wish I'd have kept all of them so I could do videos about them, but I didn't. So, and I'd absolutely love to do car videos. So, and that made me think, well, apart from my current commute car, and I don't know if I'll do one on the other one, but so, and I was thinking, so yeah, it said it was Austrian economics. This is why someone who in the past, maybe they're already rich, maybe they're not rich, but they came into money, or maybe they just knew it, over time bought one car, and then throughout their lives, they haven't had to do with all of this loss. Or they've bought an old car, and the same thing applies. Or they might have a second car, and the same thing applies. So, and they might have a generally slightly newer one. Because people often ask, you know, why have these really rich people, or rich families, or offshoots of rich families, why do they never buy the most expensive cars? I mean, you do get rich people that do it, don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against people that do either, I'm just saying. But in general, why do people that seemingly have a lot of money hold on and drive these old cars? You see these, you know, you go through rich, affluent areas, and they've always got old cars on the drive, you know, and they're nice cars. They're great cars. You know, some of them are big cars, you know, like V8, V6. You know, they might have a nice Porsche on the drive, but it's like from, you know, the 1980s, 1990s, or, and so on and so forth. And I just thought, is this a thing? And it turns out it actually is. And which means that this, in a way, is a bit of a con. Because if they're always going to return back to these sort of prices within whatever level it currently is, so it might not be 2,500 now because you've got all this digital stuff in, maybe that adds to the amount of energy, workmanship, components and stuff like that. Maybe it's higher than the 2,500 I said at the beginning. But I thought it's worth sort of thinking about. Because I've never heard of I'm sure it was, for anyone who's financially minded out there or actually knows economics and is really good at economics, please let me know, because I know there's a term for it. And then the other thing it called it, these AIs called it, was Austrian economics. And apparently you can actually save money through your life. And it does kind of make sense. I mean, if you were to add the amount of miles on your car to the amount of money you spend on a car, and then the amount of money you lose on the car, plus the amount of money you spend on fuel, plus the amount of money you use on tax. It does make sense actually buying a cheaper car and a second-hand car if it's going to last, because your outgoings are going to be a lot less than if you buy even a second-hand brand new car. You're still going to depreciate per mile that you're driving, plus the fuel that you're using per month, plus car tax, then insurance as well. So I can only see that you lose an absolute fortune compared to, let's face it, they all do pretty much the same thing at different speeds and torque. Now, I was going to mention the difference. So if you have, let's say, a really good condition Alfa Romeo from like 1980s or something, but it's been restored and it's up for like an absolute fortune, compared to the others, you might wonder, well, that goes against what I'm saying in this video. No, it doesn't, because if it's had the seats re-upholstered, if it's had the bodywork redone, if it's had a new respray, and it's had, a new dash rebuilt out of wood maybe, or just, repaired by a proper body shop, then you're thinking of using like 2026 prices and 2026 cost of energy, labour and everything else. So when you add that to that car, then you're boosting the price of it right up, and because it's in such good condition now, and maybe it even looks brand new, it's now even more collectible, which is the other part. So the rarer a car and the more popular that car and the more sought after, maybe it's been in a film like James Bond, like the Aston Martin perhaps, maybe it's just known to be a really good car, maybe it was in a race and it won, and people want to collect that one, that particular model, or color, I know makes into it. So this, of course, overinflates the price above what would be the base price I was talking about before. So yes, there are models that are worth an absolute fortune, and I'm not blind to that. I'm talking from an average, and I don't know, it's just, maybe this is really obvious and everyone knows this. I must admit it wasn't something I knew, and I mentioned this to a couple of people I knew, and they were like, wow, is that a real thing? And we chatted about it. It's like, yeah, that really looks like that's how things work. And it turns out it's not just cars. This could be anything. And literally, I mean, as I was saying, okay, you have torque, you have history, yada yada yada, and top speeds and stuff. But generally, let's face it, cars do the same thing. They take you from A, they take you to B. Hopefully, they get you back to C, which is something I worry about every day. So, or take you back to A again. So, essentially, if you buy something that's worth absolute fortunes and you're not a multi-millionaire, what is the actual point of that? Because there are a lot of cars out there that are fun and they're nice to drive and they do everything you need. Yes, they don't have AI, thank God. Yes, they don't have automatic, I'm going to drive you into the middle of the road, or I'm going to drive you off the road, or I'm just going to decide where you're going and you're going to have no idea where it's going. As a lot of these cars do now, because I tried a relatively brand new car, a couple of them, and it scared the hell out of me because it decided that it wanted to turn left because I was driving too close to the stripy lines in the middle of the road as I was going around a right bend. But I wasn't on it, and I wasn't too close to it. It just decided that I was too close. I tried to overtake some cars that were parked on the left-hand side. There was a white line in the middle. The car got confused. It didn't know whether I was going to go straight into the back of these cars because it wanted to go left away from the split white lines in the middle, or whether it was going to allow me to go over the white split lines because there was cars on the left-hand side that I could see that it obviously decided probably weren't as dangerous as going down an empty right-hand side of the road to overtake the parked cars. Either that, or it was probably going to decide that I was never going to go anywhere except in reverse. I don't know. But yeah, I found that I had it was actually a very traumatic experience. I should have just sued everyone. Yeah, sued them all. And yet in my car, I don't have any of these issues. I overtake cars because they're in the way and they're parked on the inside of the road. You know, it's not a big deal. I can see there's nothing coming. You know, or I pull behind the car when there's a gap to allow the oncoming traffic to go past, and then I go round the next set of cars. It's not that difficult. But apparently AI has a massive problem with it, and it doesn't like you doing it. So, yeah, I just generally find new cars to be, I don't know, I found that a really dangerous experience. Plus the fact that it took me about half an hour to work out how to start a car, because apparently you have to put your feet on all these different pedals, then you have to push this other thing, then you turn the key, then it will start. And I'm like, why can't I just turn the key? That's it. That's all I had to do before, you know, but no, you've got to turn all this stuff, plug this stuff in, and oh my God. So anyway, that's this video. I hope you like it. I don't know if you find it informative or just interesting or something to ponder. Yeah, let me know in the comments. I mean, it's just something that's been crossed my mind. I found this in a lot of stuff as well. In a world that where everything seems to be wanting to take our money away from us, I thought this is something worth thinking about and talking about. So if you find this interesting, sorry about the really basic video type things. I'm going to do some reaction videos on stuff I'm really interested in. If it's my other channel, if it's the one with my one of my cars on it, then it will just stay as it is. Because I'm going to put this video on 2 different channels, might even be 3. But this is for my channel that I'm currently trying to build. But as I said, I need cameras. I need to just move around things in the front room so I can create a studio corner at least, and such and so forth. So the videos will get better, and they're not generally going to be on this kind of topic on the main channel. So yeah, let me know what you think, and if there are any financial people out there, let me know what you think. Am I way off? Am I on base? I am actually really interested in this whole concept of stuff losing value and this 93% drop of currency debasement and I don't know, is it purchasing ability? That's not the right term. That's probably another technical term. And yeah, I mean, you know, because that would mean that we're actually, every time we get pay rises and everything else, we're actually not just not actually getting pay rises, but we could actually be either earning the same amount even though our wages have gone up, or we're actually losing and ending up worse off every decade of our lives, or every 5 years of our lives, because it's being debased all the time, and the cost of purchasing stuff and inflation and everything else. And then on top of that, the taxes keep going higher. You know, and then we're expected to spend fortunes on cars that the government decides, oh yeah, we should be driving these for net zero, when in actual fact, where do they think we're getting the money from if our wages aren't ever actually climbing, because our ability to purchase stuff is lowering all the time because of the displacement of currency and inflation and yada yada. Anyway, that's way out of scope of this. Yeah, just to reiterate, I am not a financial advisor. This is not an attempt to financially advise. It's just a conversation. It's my personal little bit of tiny research. which I could have gone into a hell of a lot more than this, but for the sake of like talking for 6 hours, and I can do that, I wanted to shorten this to the most basic points as much as I could. Yeah, let me know what you think. And as for older cars, yeah, win every time. Oh, and there's nothing like the sound of an engine, is there? Who wants to drive something that's absolutely silent and all you can hear is the tyres? How boring.